for those of you who were living under a rock until recently, a couple nights ago, the American government finally initiated a bombing campaign on Caracas, taking out anti-air defense systems and also taking out the entire electricity grid of Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, as they went in with a bunch of helicopters. I believe it's like 150 aircraft total, and kidnapped the leader of Venezuela, right? A sovereign nation state. We kidnapped him and his wife in the dead of the night while he was in his pajamas before he was able to escape into his steel vault, apparently. And in the process, apparently, according to numerous sources at this point, upwards of 80 people died. There were a bunch of Cuban military as well that was in Maduro's personal security detail that died. I think it was like 32 there, and almost 40 Venezuelan soldiers died as well. And then the rest were civilians. Not that it matters, obviously, in the minds and hearts of the average American. It's just regular American cruelty. It's just a light day, right? The claims that the administration was making was that the Maduro government was actually engaging in this high-profile cocaine trafficking scheme alongside the FARC, the Marxist rebel groups, the Marxist militancy in Colombia. Now, what's really interesting about that is, if you know anything about Latin American history, especially as it pertains to American involvement in Latin American history, you know that it's actually the exact opposite, right? It's exactly the opposite of this, where it is the CIA that is facilitating narco trafficking that takes place in Latin America, and they do it with regular frequency. They do it with tremendous efficiency. They do it to control not only the flows of drugs, but also to fund for their black ops and fundraise for their black ops, and also keep Latin American countries at bay with armed conflict. And it's rarely the socialist or the Marxist groups that are playing a role in this, even though they can in certain instances. Of course, yes, the CIA and the Contras being one of the most notable, one of the most famous examples. For every single person that thinks that this is actually going to be good for them in any way, shape, or form, if you're an American, if you're not American and you're celebrating these actions, I have no respect for you. If you're an American and you're celebrating these actions, I have no respect for you either. But at least you have, you have reason to feel like this is an action that was done for you. You're still stupid, but at least like you're not as stupid as like, I don't know, some European moron who's running around being like, no, you don't understand. This is actually something that needed to happen. I'm so glad that it took place. If you're an American, you're still brainwashed, but at least you're getting a healthy flow of propaganda that makes you feel like anytime America actually engages in this sort of militancy, it somehow improves your material conditions, when it very clearly doesn't. And maybe perhaps you are either too old to give a shit or too young to remember what the Iraq War was sold to Americans as and what it actually ended up turning into. And that's usually the issue with a lot of people's perspective on any kind of American militancy. It's always the same. Resource extraction is usually one of the primary goals here, and also ideological investment in fascism, or the Monroe Doctrine, or now they're calling it the Donroe Doctrine. They want to ensure that their part of the hemisphere is like completely kept under control and completely dominated and servile to American interests. Usually the people that are in the country end up suffering the most, but oftentimes they sell this concept as a good thing. In the past, they used to sell it as like a great liberalization initiative, a great democratization initiative, whether it was a right-winger doing it or whether it was a liberal doing it, right? And yet now Donald Trump doesn't even do that. He doesn't even engage in that. He just straight up says it like it is. We're going to control Venezuela, and if they don't play ball, we will keep pummeling. We will keep blowing your shit up. And for people who think that gas is going to get cheaper as a consequence of this, you genuinely have the brain of a worm. I hate to say this to you, but gas is not going to get cheaper as a consequence of this. Okay? Not only will it take many, many years to fully start the refinement process, even if we procure the 300 million barrels of oil in the world's natural the world's largest natural reserve, the very fact that it's heavy crude, and the very fact that there needs to be a tremendous amount of investment put in place to even build up this process, and the very fact that the current Venezuelan government is basically still the Maduro government without Maduro, makes things a lot more complicated, even though Maduro himself seemingly wanted to also play ball with American investment. So, it's just not going to make the oil cheaper for you. In any case, it will probably it will be good. It will be beneficial in the long run for America's leverage against Canada, America's leverage against China. It'll be good for the American State Department and the American interests. It'll be good for American capital. It will not be good for you. Just as though the Iraq War was not good for you. The only thing that the Iraq War brought to you is maybe your cousin having his foot blown off by an IED and a lifetime of medical debt and crippling PTSD. And maybe for you personally, I guess if you did go out there, you got your high school sweetheart that you married early on get f***ed by the neighbor, and then you came back to a broken home, and now you have to take care of someone else's child. Of course, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you look back at the ashes of Baghdad and you think to yourself, what was this for? And if the answer is, at least we got to spread democracy in Iraq, well, you're a idiot, and it's probably better that you keep coping this way, right? But ultimately, your government hates you, and they're not exactly hiding that reality any longer, and yet you still hope that the government actually is doing this for you, because otherwise you would realize that the government is not doing this for you at all. They're doing it for someone else. They're doing it for someone else to make money, as a matter of fact. Okay, so having said all of that, let's get into it. So yes, Maduro was kidnapped in the dead of the night, and a lot of people who were voting for Donald Trump because they thought he was the great peace bringer are now actually totally on board with Donald Trump not being the great peace bringer. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump in his first term so far, in the first, year of his administration, which, remember, it hasn't ended yet because it started on January 20th and there's 15 more days for his first year to end, has bombed 7 different countries. Okay? This is a new record. Direct bombing campaigns in 7 different countries. Fantastic. We're not even fully through the first year, and hopefully we hopefully we don't get to see how much worse it can get. But who knows? I don't think things are looking too good. Okay, 8 wars resolved, 7 countries bombed.